Welcome to BPH Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Friday, the 18th of May, 2018. This is episode 9. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. Well, I have been recording a little bit. I think I've done every day so far in May. There might have been one day where I didn't. So I'm not going to talk too much about how life has been. At this point, I'm only uploaded through the 6th of May because my nephew left his laptop at his dad's house for a week. So last week I didn't record a podcast and I haven't been able to edit since then. So I'm going to catch up today. And I'm going to be kind of quick. So this is going to be even more jumbly than it normally is, I guess, because I am going to Kentucky Sheep and Wool tomorrow. Sheep and Fiber? I don't remember. I'm going tomorrow, which means I'm driving tonight, and I am not packed. And I mean, I have some stuff thrown together. I have an idea of what I want to pack. I just haven't actually packed. And then everything else I'll talk about later. So hopefully this is short-ish. It will probably not get up until next week, but that doesn't matter to you because you'll see it when you see it, right? So I apologize in advance if it's like blah, all over the place. I haven't seen you in 2 weeks though, and I have so much finished stuff. Oh, someone started mowing their lawn. Sorry about that. So first I have this cardigan, which I need to take off in a second because it's too hot for a cardigan, but this is the Sarah by Laura Ayler. It is finished. I was pretty close. Last time I saw you, I think I was on the shawl collar, and I modified this pattern, which I'll touch on briefly since I've talked about it a lot. It's got long sleeves. It's longer than the pattern calls for, and I think those are the major things. It's knit out of Knit Picks Swish worsted. I kept calling it Stroll. It's Swish worsted, which is 100% wool. In the colorway Canopy, I knitted on US size 7, which is 4.5 millimeters. And now I'm going to take it off because this morning it was chilly when I took the kids to school, and now it's not so chilly. So that's that. I also finished the Painted Tiger spinning. So you can see it's a gradient. Well, not a gradient. It's what's it called when it's not one color? I don't remember. So it goes from this yellow into this pinky color. You can see it better on this side because it's on the outside. So to this pink, and then through a silvery purple to a darker purple. It's really pretty. I don't have plans for it because generally when I spin, I don't actually use my hand spun. I gift it a lot, and I'm kind of thinking. So I have been looking into Patreon because I would like this production quality to be better. Like having my own laptop would help. Having a decent actual camera instead of the built-in camera would help. Buying the editing software instead of using the free trial would take this banner off the bottom, so that would be helpful. So I've been looking into Patreon, and I've created a page, but I haven't opened it yet. And I think I'm going to do that. And I haven't looked at, I know that there are prizes for Patreon. See, I don't actually use Patreon to support any podcasters. Terrible, I know. So I haven't looked into it. Not because I don't want to, it's just I haven't done it. So I'm going to look into it, and I know they have they do prizes. I've seen that on podcasts that sometimes people get prizes. And I'm kind of thinking that this is going to go into the prize mix and my Even Star. Even though I've worn it like once, I wore it once and it doesn't smell like anything. It smells like wool, and so I'm probably going to put that up. And if someone wanted it to be washed again, I would re-wash and block it. And then like the Cone Pieto shell that I test knit, It's lovely. It's beautiful. I wore it, you know, one day, and realistically, I'm not going to wear it again. So that I could also rewash and block if someone was interested in that. So I'm looking into that. That's what I'm thinking, because I like to make shawls, but I don't wear them. And nobody I know wears them. So I want to make shawls, but I don't have a practical purpose. But maybe that way I could still make shawls and someone else could benefit from them. So another thing that I finished is this little cross stitch, and I haven't put it in the frame yet. No reason why I haven't put it in the frame. It's just a thing that I need to do, is put this in a frame. So hopefully, but when I'm editing this, I will get that done and there will be a picture here. We'll see. Another thing, that I'm working, or that I've finished, a couple days ago, I got an email from Joanne saying samples are due on Friday, and I sent an email back being like, what samples? I know that you have to make samples for the open houses, but the last time I talked to somebody, I specifically asked about the upcoming open house, and the education coordinator did not tell me anything about the samples. And that was like 10 days ago. She was like, oh no, don't worry about that. So she didn't literally say that, but basically she like brushed it off. So I get this email and I'm like, okay. So I sent an email back, didn't hear a response. Yesterday I called and I was like, so samples are due tomorrow and I don't even know what I'm supposed to make samples of. So the manager on duty got together some paperwork for me and I was like, okay, I'll be there at 7 p.m. So last night at 7 p.m., it's a little after 9 a.m. right now, I went in, I picked up the packet information for the samples, and it's super simple stuff. So between last night and this morning, I made 5 granny squares, and I wove in the ends on 2, and I have to weave in the ends on these 3. So these are made out of Lion Brand jeans. I think it's what it's called. Yeah, jeans colors in this khaki color is khaki, pink is Bermuda, this blue is called Stonewash, the teal is called Capri, and I don't know what this red color is called. Let's see. Jumpsuit. So I made 5 of these because technically I only had to make 1, but since I had to buy the yarn to make these granny squares, I just figured I would do a whole bunch of different color combinations so that people could see what they could do with the colors. So yeah, I made these, and like some squares I like better than others, like this one and this one. These 2 are probably my favorites. And then I'm not such a fan of these other ones, but you know, whatever. That's what I'm talking about. Like some people are going to like some color combinations better than others, and that way they can see what they're looking at. And the other thing that I made is, this is called Raspberry Stitch. It's a knit stitch that I've never used before, but this is my swatch for the class, and it's not difficult. It's a 4-stitch repeat. It's just a square swatch sample. So, and this was made out of Vantage Choice in a red colorway. So I am going to be, anyway, they're due today, and the lady last night was like, you know, we can give you an extension since you didn't know about it. And I was like, oh no, I'll just drop it off to tomorrow. I will drop it off tomorrow because, you know, I'm going out of town this weekend. I don't want to have to worry about it. I don't want to. Next week, Monday, I have a doctor's appointment in the morning. So that's going to take away all of my spoons. I'm going to be decompressing from the weekend because it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's going to be a lot because it's a festival. And I'm going to be driving down to Kentucky and all the way back up over a weekend. So I just told her that I would bring it in today. So I finished them overnight. They're pretty simple. If you're in the Sterling Heights area, the Joann's at Hall and Shaner, I will be at an open house on June 2nd from 11 to 3. If you want to stop by and sign up for a class, that would be amazing. And in addition to the actual classes being taught, I am trying to do It's called Knitting and Crochet Social Hour. So it's $10 for 2 hours, but you basically come and like sit and knit. So it's kind of like a Stitch and Bitch situation that you have to pay for, but you know, I'll be there if you're interested in that. And otherwise, I'm going to be teaching classes, so I'm going to drop off my swatches. Today, I'm hoping for about 11, so I need to get this recorded and edited so it can start compressing while I'm out doing that. Anyway, I also finished 3 pairs of baby booties, and they're all different designs. So the dark green ones are the ones that I was working on last time that I can't pronounce the name of or the designer, but they're finished. I also made the easiest baby booties ever. So those are the small green, like brighter green ones that I used my sweater yarn for. And that is by Gina Michelle. And I used Knit Picks Swish Worsted in Canopy, US 7s, 4.5 millimeters. They are super easy. It took less than an hour to make both of them. So they knit up super fast. I don't know if they stay on baby's feet, of course. It's the first time I've made them, but they're really, really fast and simple, and the pattern was really well written. There are pictures throughout the pattern to show you what you're doing. And then the third pair that I made are actually Rye Socks by Tin Can Knits, and those are also worsted weight. I used Red Heart Soft in Guacamole. That's the top green color, like the leg and halfway through the heel is in that color. And then I ran out of yarn because I've used that yarn for a lot of things. It's been in my stash since Mara was a baby because one of my friends was having a baby, and we made a little Link costume for the baby. So that was left over. And that was, I don't know if I had started the podcast at that point. If I had, it was one of my first projects that I talked about. It's definitely one of my first projects on Ravelry. So that leftover yarn has been in my stash a really long time, and that is the very last of that guacamole. And then I have the Karen Super Soft for the foot. I have that because I'm making a blanket using that. And that's knit on US size 7, 4.5 millimeters. Really easy pattern. I knit those in an evening also. Rye is a worsted, maybe a DK worsted pattern for socks. It's out of the Tin Can Knits Simple collection. So like to learn how to make these, I don't know, I think 6 things in the collection. So a hat, a sweater, some socks, maybe some other things. And they're sized from very, very tiny human to very, very large human. The other things that I have finished are a design coming up. So I'm actually really excited to talk about this. I am going to release a pattern collection kind of for pre-order, but not really, on June 1st. It is called the Helicoid, Helicoid, which means spiraling, kind of. I don't remember the exact definition. I'll put it at the bottom or top of the screen. So what it is a collection of socks that are intarsia in the round, and they, I'll show you the first pair because it is with test knitters right now, and I want to talk about it. So I got yarn support from Leading Men Fiber Arts. I sent them a sketch. I asked for specific things. So what you need to make these socks is a skein of yarn, a normal skein of yarn. This is their all the way to the bank colorway on the Showstopper base. And then this is a mini of the Cherry Blossom colorway. It's beautiful. With those skeins of yarn, I made my personal design pair. So this is kind of what it looks like. You can see it's got a little thing spiraling around the leg. And the legs are mirrors of each other. So one spirals one way, one spirals the other. So this is my pair. And then I realized that I'm seeing Leading Men Fiber Arts at Kentucky Sheep and Fiber this week. So I knit them a booth sample because I offered to knit a booth sample when I asked for the yarn support. And now I've kind of decided that it would be kind of nice for them to have both socks. So I am really close. I'm about a third away from the length of the leg on this sock, and then I will finish the heel and foot and block it. Ambitious much. Hopefully tonight I'll get through all of that and it can dry overnight and I can give it to them in their booth tomorrow. And this is all out of, so I'll have knit four single socks out of one mini skein and one regular skein. This particular pattern is coming out June 1st. But you will have the option to buy the ebook because it's going to be, it's not going to be an ebook. It's going to be a collection that you can bundle buy for $15. The patterns themselves will be $5. So the ebook will be $12. But if you buy it on for the first week of June, you can get it for $1 off that, which will be $11 for 3 sock patterns. And this is the most, this is the least skill intensive pair of socks. The second and third pairs will be progressively more skill intensive. I will be releasing all of that on June 1st. And again, you can get just the pattern, or you can take it on faith that I'm going to release good patterns so you'll get the first pattern on June 1st, and then I'm going to release the second pattern on July 1st, and the third pattern on August 1st. So if you buy the collection, those new patterns will just be automatically added as an update to the pattern collection. You won't have to do anything. Ravelry will do it for you. That will just be delivered to you as they come out. Or you can just buy the separate patterns as they come out if you don't want to buy the collection. Yeah, I'm actually really, really super excited about it. And I'm kind of thinking that this will be like Helicoid Volume 1 because I also want to do a similar thing using Intarsia in the round for hats and then for mitts. So those are percolating in my brain for future collections. And I am really, really excited. So check that out. I should have information up on that in the next week or two. Okay, so works in progress is going to be a little crazy because I don't have show notes written for this. So first I have the last of the sample socks to go. And I am also working on a blanket design. And my turnaround time, I have let me tell you about the blanket design first. So Allison mentioned after I made my last blanket, the big one, using the undercover pattern, that I design a blanket pattern that uses the border that I came up with. So I'm doing that, and I'm making 2 samples right now. And the first I am using Bernat Super Value Big Stripes in the Shoreline colorway. So it looks like that. And I'm just going to show you the wrong side because this pattern isn't coming out for a while. So that's kind of what it looks like. It's got texture on the front to keep it interesting, but not so much that it's super duper complicated. It has a little cable motif, but not anything big. It's cable, it's either 1 stitch over 2, it's always 1 stitch over 2 stitches. Yes, so, and it slipped off my needle. Oh well, I'll fix that later. So it's a worsted weight on a US size 8 knitting needle, and that's the first version. And the second version, the cake is a hot mess. I need to pull out my ball winder maybe, or wind it by hand. Like, I don't even know. I do know how this happened. I had my knitting sitting on a chair, and then my children touched it and it just exploded. So I'm working up the second sample right now, and this is the wrong side, but you can see there's eyelet rows on this version, and it doesn't make it any more complicated. It's just one row is written differently, so you have to pay attention for one row more, but I really like the way it's turning out. If you're interested in test knitting, let me know. I do have 2 people already signed up for the non-eyelet version. So if you're interested in the non-eyelet version, let me know. I'll take one more person for that. But especially if you're interested in the eyelet version, I will take up to 3 people to test knit that. And that I would like to get out September 1st. That way I'm not trying to get out a bajillion patterns all at once and overloading myself, because I really like designing, but I hate sitting down and writing up the pattern and editing pictures and all of that. All the technical stuff, just, I'm not a fan. So that'll be a longer turnaround on that blanket. And also it's a blanket. That way you have time to, you don't have to just sit down and crank out a whole blanket very quickly. The body portion of that blanket is written and is ready for testers. And then once I get to the border, I will send that out to testers. But again, it's a blanket. It's going to take time. So if you want, I can send you the body and you can work on that. Another thing that I started is I was working on that cross stitch, and it was a kit, so there was a lot of leftover embroidery floss, this much left over. And I like to make draft stoppers for my door. There's a whole thing that I did on one of my daily videos explaining it, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I like to make them, and they're really good for, I stuff them using old clothes that are not donatable or not wearable, and like socks when they get worn out. Instead of throwing them in the garbage, I throw them in here because it gives it a nice weight. So anyway, this is what I'm working on, and I'm using the leftover embroidery floss to sew down the letters, and it says home. Here's the E. So I've been sewing down since I started it, 1 strand a day, except I didn't do it yesterday. I'm not going to do it this weekend. I'm not going to do it today. But eventually this will say home on it, and then I will use it in front of my door to stop the draft that inevitably happens every winter. And it's just a old pair of jeans and old broken down t-shirts for the letters. I have also been working on the Wolfpack socks, which is a Rachel Coopy design, and the other sock's over there. Hold, please. I don't know where I was last time I talked to you. Was I at this stitch marker and I did the whole sock? I feel like that might be where I was last time I talked to you. I think I was here. I think I had just started it, and I think this stitch marker was to show me how much progress I made in a day. So it has like a little lace panel down the back and a textured panel down the front, and then cables down the sides. These are knit on US size 1, 2.25 millimeters. That's what I use for all of my socks. This yarn is it's a Croy sock by Peyton's in the woodsy colorway. So it is more of a sport weight than a fingering weight. So for this pattern, it's a 72 stitch pattern. It's a paid for pattern that Allison gifted to me for my birthday, I want to say last year, so thank you. I'm pretty excited about knitting it up in my birth month. So I'm working on it, and it's a 72 stitch sock. I modified it to be a 64 stitch sock. So basically what I did is it's got this textured panel down the front, but I took out 2 repeats of that texture from the front and 2 repeats from the back. And I can't remember if I followed the instructions for the heel or not. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I think I read the instructions and I was like, okay, this part will work and this part won't. I didn't write myself notes, so I'm gonna have to recreate that when I get to the heel. But this is the first sock, and it's already blocked because I was blocking some other things. And I was like, well, I'll just block the first sock. That way it's done, and I only have to block the second sock. So this is what I really like about top-down socks, is that since I already have my needle out to Kitchener, I just sew in all the ends really fast because I already have my needle out and then I don't have to worry about it. So this one, I did some yarn management up at the top because I want the stripes to match. It was very, very close in the skein. I think I did about half of the length in this brown color, and then I had to pull from the other side to get more of this brown color in here. So it was so close. I didn't want it to be, you know, an inch off in the color repeat because I don't necessarily feel like socks need to match with their stripes, but when they're that close, then I feel, personal feelings, I feel like it's just a little sloppy and like you could take the extra 2 minutes to manage color. So they're super close. I am just above the heel. I think I have to finish out this repeat. I'm not very far away from that repeat starting or being finished. Only about 4 more rows of the leg, and then I start the heel. So my plan is, I'm going to this fiber festival. I'll talk about more works in progress in a minute. I think I'm almost done. Yeah. So I'm going to this fiber festival and I'm taking way too much stuff to work on. I am going to take the sample in case I don't finish it. I am going to take this sock to work on because once I get past the heel, I don't really have to think about it. It pretty much knits itself. So I'm going to take this, hoping to finish this. And then, because I'm a crazy person, let me show you some other things. I cast on, literally just cast on, a hat. This is the Farron Woods hat by Jack Beck. He designed the shawl that I test knit last month. So I cast that on using the leftovers from my sweater, and I am going to work on that. It is a textured cable-y hat that I'm totally going to work on while I'm walking around, right? We'll see. I mean, I don't have a problem doing cables while I'm walking. She was dying of dehydration. Sorry if you can hear her drinking. So I'm also going to take my spindle. I have this much left of this particular little Gourmet Stash little batlet that I'm spinning, and I don't know if this is the correct color or not. Ravenclaw's Diadem, I think it is. So it's got gold and green and then some Angelina and black and white. I'm almost finished with this little piece, so I'm probably going to take the next 2 batlets just in case, because sometimes I just want to spin, and I can't spin while I'm in line or anything, but you know, when I'm eating or step away from the actual festival itself, I can definitely spin. So I'm taking this, and it is inside a box that some essential oil shipped in, because the box has this foam attached to the bottom and top, and it's pretty solid, so I'm not that worried about damaging my spindle. And it's actually like the perfect size for my spindle and a couple of these batlets. And then I am also taking some barn raising squares because I am gonna have all this time to knit on all the things. Although realistically, barn raising squares, after I finish that sock, barn raising squares are like the next most likely thing that I'm going to work on because I'm not going to have to pay attention that much. So I have one on the go right now. And then I'm insane though. The amount of yarn that I'm taking for barn raising squares is excessive. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colors for barn raising squares. Do I really think I'm going to finish 6 barn raising squares? I mean, I might. let's be serious, they're pretty quick. But, well, 7 technically, since I'm taking this also. Ridiculous. I overpack on knitting always, though, because you never know. It would be way worse to underpack on the knitting and then be stuck without anything, right? I think that's all of my works in progress. I'm not going to talk about modular knitting this week, and I have been reading a bunch of young adult books, but nothing worth sharing. So I'm going to let you go. I'm really sorry if this was like super choppy and stuff, but I will see you next week.